Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we're going to do a little disassembly maintenance on this little guy right here. This is the Anthony Griffin Custom Knives knife that he made for Gavin Reddick. First off, size comparison. This thing's ridiculous, but you know what? My buddy Gavin gave me permission to take it apart, so by God, I'm going to do so. So let's go on ahead and give this a shot. I believe these are T15 bits. Yeah, T15 all around. And let's go ahead and do this. By the way, I do apologize in advance for the fact that my air conditioner is running right now. I'm sure you can hear that in the background humming along. I'd love to not have it on right now, but the thing is, welcome to Michigan, where we currently have a feels-like temperature of 105. And I love you guys, but not quite enough to turn off the air on this kind of a day. So anyways, there you go. We are just barely holding it together here in Michigan. So what I'm doing here is obviously trying to disassemble this guy, take it apart. I think this screw's really long. Then I remember the blade is like half an inch thick. Actually, the blade is not like half an inch thick. The blade's just half an inch thick. So, yeah, let's go ahead and try and take it apart from this side here. Pop this out. So this is my pivot screw. Pop this. Oh, good Lord, these screws are ridiculously long, although that's kind of what you need to do in this situation here. Come on, there we go. That's popped loose. Come on. You're spinning freely there, bro. What's going on here? Oh, that's a Chicago screw. Okay, well, that's interesting. So, let's place that there. And then I'm wondering if it's been, okay. Yeah, so it looks like the back two Chicago screws are, and we're disassembling ourselves here. This is kind of uniquely difficult given that I've got literally like half a pound of blade coming on here. So let's go ahead and holy crap, guys. I need like a freaking crane, an engine lift here to properly do this. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. All right, so we got this guy disassembled. Look, at some level, it's a pretty straightforward knife. All right, sorry. Back at the ranch. Wow, this is something else, all right. So it's a pretty straightforward knife. I mean, practically speaking, it's a Framelock, just freaking enormous here. But the thing is, Framelocks are pretty straightforward to maintain. It looks like we've got ourselves a the tent ball the size of my head. Here, it looks like he's put a little bit of Sharpie on the lock face here to reduce lock stick, which is fine. You can see here there's a little bit of wear from that washer there. The pivot is actually good and grody here, which is, it kind of makes sense given that, okay, this is not the pivot. I'm just trying to keep my ducks in a row here. I've got a bunch of pockets off camera here that I'm keeping all my hardware in, so I know where everything goes back in. But yeah, the pivot's a little bit on the grody side here, so we're going to clean that right off. And hoping that this is actually going to get even, you know, smooth is kind of hard when your blade literally, like, how much does this blade weigh? And the bigger question is, will my scale be able to handle it? Let's see here. This blade is going to 17.74 ounces. His blade weighs a freaking pound. Just the blade. Anyways, so when your blade weighs a freaking pound, it's not like smoothness is going to be, it's not like this isn't going to drop shot. And so that is something you're going to want to keep in mind during these kinds of disassemblies here. Alrighty, so there's that. Now that these pieces are cleaned off, I'm going to go ahead and move them off camera because I'm zoomed more or less all the way out and running out of space on my desk here. So there we go. You can see here that it's been acid washed and that the acid wash was not, there was not steps taken to protect the tent ball path nor the bearing area, but again, the blade weighs literally a pound. It's not that this is going to have a bad action, no matter what you do. So, yeah. I am... This is kind of weird for me. I'm going to be completely honest with you here. Because this is not a scale I'm used to working at. Like, everything feels familiar. Like I'm doing something that I have done many times before, disassembling a frame lock. But it is being done here at a pure scale that is just absolutely ridiculous to me. And so I'm like, everything seems like it's okay, but then it's not. I go to lift the blade, and it's a freaking 17-ounce beast. And so I'm just kind of weirded out by that. Looks like we have differently sized washers. Luckily, we have the whip. Sorry, I flipped over the blade and it was it was a pound. So we got differently sized washers, which makes sense. We got the bigger one on the lock side, the smaller one on not the lock side. Because likely if it were on the lock side, it would interfere with the lockup, which is fine. It looks like he's just rounded down some washers here. No freaking problem. Look, construction-wise, aside from the fact that it's a completely ridiculous knife, it is absolutely good to go. No problems there. This is a reassembly time. Let's go on ahead. I'm going to... because this is D2, I'm actually going to do something new and different here, in that I am going to try. So lately I picked up, actually, I'm sorry, a buddy of mine, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, but he's a gem of a human being. Anyways, a buddy of mine sent me a bottle of this EDCI solution, which is meant to reduce corrosion, etc. And I'm going to give a try to putting some of this on the blade, because this is D2 steel. Previously, I've used frog lube for this, and frog lube is fine, but it's also got a tendency on occasion to gum up. I've not noticed it when I'm using it as a rust protectant. You should never use frog lube as lubricant, but I've been giving this EDCI stuff a try. And since I am, since this is a big old chunk of D2, I figured, you know, hey, why not? Since this was sent to me by a generous viewer, might as well do my best. At worst, it does nothing, you know, it's no different than not applying EDCI. And you know what? That's fine. Actually, screw it. This thing's like huge, so I'll apply the solution directly to the knife here. Oh my God. The harpoon on this guy is like legit a harpoon. Like Moby freaking Dick is walking down the street, sees this, crosses the road. I mean, that kind of thing. This is insane here. Ay, ay, ay. Not exactly a lunchroom knife. Unless you happen to share a lunchroom with Anthony Griffin. Anthony Griffin Custom Knives. Look, I'm gonna sound like I'm making fun of this knife, and in a very real level I am, because, oh my God, look at this thing. But in another level, Anthony Griffin's actually a custom maker I like a lot. I had one of his knives very early on in my channel's history. It was, in fact, the first knife I ordered custom to my specifications. The only reason I ended up selling it is that it was just too thick. I ordered blade stock, I asked for blade stock that was way thicker than the thinness of the blade could support. And so as a result, the knife just didn't cut well for what I was doing. That's entirely on me. That's not on Anthony. He gave me exactly what I wanted. But he has sort of been making a name for himself lately as a custom knife maker by doing these kinds of weird builds. Like, he's done a couple of these monster knives that are each time just kind of hilarious. And I get the impression that he himself is laughing about these, that he's making these with a smile. And that's great. Because honestly, if you're going to do something like this, as long as you're not taking it too seriously, that's great. Have fun. This is some 85 weight nano oil here, and I'm going to use a fair amount of it because there's a fair amount of area to cover here. Let's go ahead and put it like that there. And actually, I'll go ahead and start reassembling this knife. So we're going to go ahead and install the Chicago screws here. There we go. Pivot goes there. We will... That is a lanyard hole. I'm aware that previously the Chicago screws were inserted from different sides, but I'm actually going to do my best to reassemble it with them, you know, properly sided, if you will, just because that's going to be so much easier for us during reassembly here. So yeah, next thing I'm going to do here is Sorry, I looked at what's on my table. This thing's hilarious. Next thing we're gonna do here is, did I just re-gunk this? Nah, I just picked up a little bit from what pivot. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do here is slide the pivot in position. I'm gonna go ahead and apply a nice stick bead lube on this guy. Look, I'm over lubricating, I know, but look at this freaking thing. It kind of demands it, right? Next thing, I'm going to lubricate the detent ball hole here and the detent ball path. I'm using the 85 weight rather than the 10 weight nano oil because, look, this is a big knife. In case you didn't notice, this is large. And I want to make sure, no, come on, go home. There we go. And the 85 weight is going to stay in position a little bit better than usual. I don't usually have to worry about what's off to the side of my mat here, but looks like the day is different and special. There we go. Beautiful. Then here is this. Okay. There is that. We are basically getting ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit to the dent ball itself here. And let's go ahead and reinstall the upper scale here. I'm going to have to, as usual, the weight involved in all of this is just making this absolutely freaking nuts. There we go. So what I'm doing here is using the disengaging the lock bar slightly in order to get everything into the proper positionings that it needs to be in. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this. I'm going to use a little bit of blue Loctite here. And my goal here is not actually to like fully tighten this screw at this point in time. My goal here is just to get the screw into position here so that it won't pop out again. Because you see, it's wanting very much to be to fall through the other side here. So part of what my role is right now is to turn this screw such that I can get everything. There we go. Okay, good. That's just roughly tight here. That's all I need. I'm going to do the same thing with the pivot here. Again, I'm just drawing the pivot screw, the other half of the Chicago screw for the pivot, up into the, the full region here. That's my goal. The pivot is free spinning from the looks of it, so that's making my life a little trickier. Yeah, it really is. Let's make sure I'm not like cross-threaded or something stupid. Okay, we're pulling. Okay, and again, this is just sort of roughly in the position it needs to be in. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and slide this piece in here. I flipped the entire knife over at this point. Then I'm going to reinstall this Chicago screw with the goal of sort of spearing the back spacer. There we go. That worked easily. And slide this the rest of the way in. Oh, damn it, lost it. All right. So now let's go ahead and put this in here. I'm noticing these are differently sized screws, which is fine in terms of their overall length. So if you've got one of these yourself, although you may not because it's a custom knife and because it's ridiculous, you may want to keep that in mind. Look, at some level, why am I doing a disassembly and maintenance on this knife aside from to prove to the world I can? It's like climbing Everest. You don't actually need anything on the top of the mountain. What you find on top of the mountain was inside you all along, and indeed, inside me right now is a jackass who is able to disassemble this knife successfully. Holy crap, guys. This thing is completely and totally absurd. I'm tightening everything up now, and kind of getting everything locked in place. Action-wise, right now it's running a little tight, which is hilarious. But there we go. That's smooth. Is there blade play? Can I test? Yes, I can. No, there isn't. Beautiful. Drops shut. Again, it's half a freaking pound. Of course, it drops shut. Let's go ahead and actually, I'm feeling a little bit of lock stick on this guy. That's actually a substantial amount of lock stick, and that's why there was so much Sharpie on the edge of the knife here. So what I'm going to do is actually reapply that. I'm going to use, as you might imagine, a Sharpie, just a good old-fashioned permanent marker there. I'm struggling because I keep reaching through and touching the blade here. That is Not exactly dangerous for everyday carry, but it's certainly a thing, because I don't know that this is a knife for everyday carry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply the Sharpie there. Whoa there. That's definitely... But now what we'll see is where it wore the Sharpie off. Yeah, right there, so we'll reapply. Very often this is just like an iterative process. Just building up enough. There we go. See, it was less that time. We'll reapply. You're just building it up, that's all. There we go. A little bit of lock stick on a knife like this may not hurt. Again, practicality here is not at the forefront of anybody's thinking. This thing is ridiculous. It's actually well balanced, though. I gotta give credit to Anthony there. Look, if you're gonna make a gigantic freaking knife, this is a pretty well made gigantic freaking knife. I can't actually complain about it as in terms of like the knife making here, aside from the elephant in the room, namely the fact that this is about the size of an elephant in most rooms. Quality-wise, we're right up there. If you must have one of these made, LOL, yeah. So yeah, there you go. One more time with feeling. It's so weird to be able to put your entire hand in here and pull up the frame lock. I don't know that that's the proper approach, but with this blade being as, yeah, you can do that as well. I'm kind of reluctant to, yeah. But anyways, looks like the lock stick is gone, mischief managed. We've got this thing back in position. This is completely and totally freaking ridiculous. We didn't fix that, but that's okay. We didn't need to. I hope you found this interesting. Oh my God, this thing's nuts. And mostly, I hope, though, that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, and that if you happen to need a engine hoist for your next disassembly, that you've got one handy. Bye now.